Okay, let's unpack this. For decades, the concept of free energy has been, well, let's just say relegated to the fringes of science, right?
Absolutely. It conjures images of perpetual motion machines, maybe outright pseudoscience for a lot of people.
Exactly. And mainstream physics, which is, grounded in established thermodynamic laws, largely dismisses it, calls it an impossibility.
Hmm.
But what if that very framework, as comprehensive as it seems, is maybe built upon a fundamental misunderstanding, like a blind spot in how we perceive the universe's most basic elements?
Indeed. And that's really where this deep dive goes. It's based on a truly groundbreaking paper titled Free Energy from the Coherence Vacuum, Beyond the Thermodynamic Limit,
Right.
penned by Philip Lilien of the Unified Coherence Research Initiative. And it doesn't just, challenge conventional assumptions. It proposes a radical new theoretical foundation for free energy,
Yeah, okay.
one that dares to look beyond what we currently understand about empty space itself. It asks, what if the vacuum isn't empty or chaotic, but actually teeming with a different kind of order?
That's the hook, isn't it? I mean, the paper's abstract immediately grabs your attention. It suggests that the reason usable zero-point energy is rejected by standard models,
Hmm,
well, it's due to thermodynamic constraints, sure, but only because those models fundamentally misunderstand the true nature of the vacuum.
precisely.
So our mission today is to explore the paper's core argument that free energy isn't just possible, but, in Lillian's own words, it's structurally inevitable when systems are designed to align with something he calls the coherence vacuum, or CV.
And we'll be tracing how Lillian outlines not only a completely new theoretical foundation, but also a sophisticated mathematical model and even practical design implications for what they call CV-aligned energy systems.
Wow.
It's really an invitation, for all of us, you included, to consider a completely different way of understanding the very nature of energy itself, moving us beyond the conventional view of what's possible.
And really asking us to rethink what constitutes empty space.
Exactly. Shape of 5. The deep divide. Quantum vacuum QV versus coherence vacuum CV.
So the paper starts by asking a pretty profound question. Why is free energy forbidden by standard physics? Like, what deeply ingrained assumptions are baked into that conclusion, making it almost an unquestioned axiom of modern science?
Right, and the answer, it turns out, lies in how we understand empty space itself. Specifically, how we define and interact with what we call the vacuum. 1. Understanding the quantum vacuum, QV, the conventional view.
Okay, so before we get into the new idea, we need to understand the old one, the one being critiqued, the quantum vacuum, or QV.
Yes. To truly grasp the radical departure this paper proposes, we first need to solidify our understanding of the conventional view, the quantum vacuum, QV. In standard quantum field theory, the quantum vacuum isn't truly empty space as, you might imagine a void.
Right, not just nothingness.
Not at all. Instead, it's defined as the lowest possible energy state of a quantized field. Imagine it like a vast, calm ocean that still has tiny, fluctuating ripples on its surface, even when there are no big waves.
Okay, ripples. And within this conventional understanding, what are its key characteristics? The paper describes it as a decohered state, which sounds important.
It's crucial. Decohered means it lacks inherent order or structured information. Think of it like truly random static on an old radio, or maybe water that's completely still with no directed currents. It's seen as being filled with constant virtual particle fluctuations.
Virtual particles.
Yeah, particles and antiparticles briefly popping into and out of existence, exchanging energy, but then annihilating each other almost instantly. These are transient statistical events, not organized flows. They happen, but they don't go anywhere in a structured way.
So there's energy there, potentially a lot of it, but it's chaotic.
Exactly. So while these fluctuations represent a colossal amount of theoretical energy, I mean, if you summed up all the zero-point energy in just a single cubic centimeter, it would be astronomical. The paper describes the QV as a statistical thermodynamic residue.
A residue,
Mhm.
like leftover noise.
Sort of. It's an entropic minimum, or rather, a state where entropy is maximal or bounded. This means it's as disordered as it can possibly get without further energy input. Any fleeting order that might appear just dissolves back into chaos almost immediately.
And this leads to the critical problem for free energy, doesn't it? The energy within the QV, while immense, is not structured for usable work.
That's the crux of it. The paper states it has no directional coherence vector, This means there's no inherent flow, no organization, no grain to the field that could be harnessed for directed effort. It simply cannot self-organize or transmit coherence.
It can't pass along structure.
Precisely, and this is where standard thermodynamics comes into play. The foundational first law, energy conservation, and the really important second law, entropy always increases. These laws are derived from observing systems that operate within this very decohered QV state.
So the laws themselves are based on this assumption about the vacuum.
They are derived from systems in that state, yes. So any attempts to extract usable work from the quantum vacuum within this established framework inevitably fall back into the constraints of statistical noise. It's like trying to get organized, directed work out of a truly random system. You just can't.
You might get lucky with a tiny blip, but nothing sustained.
Exactly. A tiny random fluctuation, but it immediately dissipates back into the statistical background. That's why, conventionally, free energy from the QV is rejected. It's not a question of enough energy, there's plenty of that, but it's about usable, structured energy.
The energy is there, but it's too chaotic, too random, too disordered to be directed for a sustained task, like trying to power a car with static electricity from a carpet.
A good analogy, yes. It's diffuse and undirected.
And this limitation is captured mathematically too, right? The paper uses an equation.
Yes, delta T uplist. No, let's try to break this down a bit for you listening here. Here, delta C refers to the change in extractable coherence, essentially, structured usable information or energy, and math BBQ represents the quantum vacuum.
Okay, so the change in usable stuff from the QV
is zero. Exactly. What this equation is saying, quite powerfully, is that the change in extractable coherence from the quantum vacuum is zero.
No net gain in usable structure.
Right. It signifies that the QV is entropically sealed. This means there is no net extractable coherence from it. It's effectively a closed system in terms of usable structured energy. It's the ultimate chaotic background.
Like having an enormous pile of sand. There's a lot of material, but you can't easily build a skyscraper from it without bringing in external organized effort and tools.
Precisely. The energy is diffuse and undirected. 2. Introducing the coherence vacuum, CV, the ontological generator.
Now here's where it gets, well, truly fascinating. The paper makes a bold, almost revolutionary argument that taking the quantum vacuum as the ultimate fundamental reality is profoundly wrong. It calls the QV a residue, not the source. Instead, it posits the existence of something far more profound, a deeper layer of reality, it terms, the coherence vacuum, or CV. This is where the paradigm shift really kicks in.
And what's fascinating here is how this redefines the vacuum. It's not just shifting from a state of minimal entropy and statistical noise, but proposing an active, order-generating source. The coherence vacuum is presented as a fundamentally different entity, an ontological generator.
Ontological, meaning related to existence itself.
Yes. Ontological refers to the nature of being or reality itself. So this means the CV is proposed as a primary foundational field of reality, the fundamental source from which everything else emerges. It's not a derivative like the QV might be. It generates what we perceive as reality.
Wow. So unlike the chaotic dissolving QV, the CV is described as a negentropic field. Negentropic. The opposite of entropy.
Exactly. Where entropy means disorder or decay, negentropy means it actively generates order, not disorder. It's not about things falling apart. It's about things coming together, becoming more organized, more structured.
So it builds order.
That's the idea. The paper says it's pre-thermal, existing before the concepts of heat and entropy as we understand them, operating on a different set of rules. And it's infinitely structured, or infinitely fertile. Imagine not just an ocean of random waves, but an ocean teeming with perfectly organized currents, each carrying immense directed potential.
That's a very different picture.
Completely. It's described as teeming with coherence gradients, differences in the level of coherence, and acts as a coherence gradient engine with structured potential flow. Think of it as having inherent directionality and usable structure.
And it stretches our minds even further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The paper claims the CV exists pre-spacetime.
Yes, and beyond space-time constraints. This means it precedes our familiar dimensions of length, width, height, and time. It serves as the symmetry origin layer.
Symmetry origin, meaning it's where the fundamental rules come from.
That's the implication. It's profound. It suggests that even fundamental elements like mass, space, time, and the basic dimensional fields we observe in physics like U1 for electromagnetism, SU2 for the weak nuclear force, SU3 for the strong nuclear force, all emerge from the CV.
Yeah.
through a process Lilien calls coherence reduction. The idea is that the infinite perfect order of the CV condenses or reduces into the specific symmetries and properties of our physical universe. It's suggesting the CV is the blueprint, the underlying active order from which our physical universe unfolds.
That's a lot to take in. It's like the CV is the master pattern.
In a sense, yes. The paper offers a powerful analogy to help grasp this distinction, which I found quite helpful too.
Oh, yeah. What is...
CV is to QV what the seed is to the ash.
Okay. That makes it clear. The quantum vacuum, with its randomness and sealed entropy, is the burnt-out residue, the byproduct.
While the coherence vacuum is the living, fertile seed, the source from which all growth, all structured order, all complex phenomena can emerge. The CV allows for constructive emergence, not just those residual fluctuations. It's an active, generative, creative force.
Fundamentally different from the passive entropic QV.
Okay.
And there's a math concept for the CV, too.
Yes. Mirroring the QV equation, the paper provides a key concept for the CV.
Okay, so delta C is still extractable coherence. The MEF BBC in 50 is the coherence vacuum, and it equals infinity.
Correct. This equation tells us something quite remarkable. It signifies that the CV is infinitely fertile, holding infinite coherent potential. This isn't just a theoretical construct in the paper. It's posited as the fundamental wellspring of order and structure in the universe.
An inexhaustible source of potential energy.
That is accessible if we know how to align with it. It suggests a hierarchical reality, where the QV is simply the lowest, most disordered state of a field that ultimately originates from the infinitely structured and infinitely fertile coherence vacuum. 2. Redefining thermodynamics, laws of coherence.
So, okay, if the coherence vacuum is truly distinct, truly fundamental, and operates so differently, then it stands to reason that the laws governing it would also have to be different from our standard thermodynamics, right?
Right, exactly. Our current laws are based on the QV. If the CV is the real foundation, you'd expect a different set of rules.
And the paper introduces just that. A radical new set of principles. This isn't just tweaking existing laws, it's proposing an entirely new framework, a different rule book for how energy and order behave at this deeper level. One, moving beyond entropic thermodynamics.
Right. The paper reiterates a crucial point we've touched on. Standard thermodynamics, with its relentless focus on increasing entropy leading to ideas like the heat death of the universe where everything just fizzles out, is derived from observing systems within that decohered quantum vacuum state.
Our everyday experience, basically. Heat flows from hot to cold, things break down.
And that framework, while incredibly successful for describing steam engines, chemical reactions, all sorts of thermal systems, it inherently struggles with phenomena like sustained self-organization. Think about life itself, or the transmission of truly structured energy without degrading into heat immediately. It's optimized for a universe where disorder tends to increase, where everything is constantly winding down.
And that's precisely why, within that traditional framework, free energy seems impossible, right? Like a violation. Because if everything naturally tends towards disorder, how could you possibly extract clean, usable, non-degrading energy forever? It seems to defy the second law.
It would defy the second law as applied to systems within the QV. But the paper argues the coherence vacuum, conversely, is explicitly stated as not entropic. It doesn't obey the same rules of increasing disorder.
Because it's the source of order.
Exactly. It is the very source of negentropic order, meaning it actively generates and sustains order. This is a fundamental shift. It moves us from thinking about a universe always winding down to one that has a continuous, inherent capacity for organization, complexity, and ongoing creation.
So, phenomena like life, maybe, instead of being some weird exception fighting entropy.
Might simply be aligning with this deeper negentropic source, tapping into the natural tendency towards order that originates from the CV, too. The laws of coherence thermodynamics.
Okay, that's a huge shift. So, how does such a field, if it's truly fundamental and negentropic, actually behave? If it's the ultimate source of order, what are the rules that govern that order?
That's the next critical step the paper takes. It bravely proposes 4 new laws that describe a thermodynamic order based on coherence, rather than solely on heat or disorder. These are called the laws of coherence thermodynamics, denoted deutera, and they offer a truly different perspective.
4 new laws. Okay, let's break them down. What's the first one?
First up is coherence conservation. This law implies that coherence itself, meaning structured information, order, the quality of being unified, is a conserved quantity within this new framework.
Conserved. like energy in normal physics.
Precisely. Much like energy is conserved, here, coherence is not lost. It's transformed, propagated, or maintained. This is a profound departure from purely entropic thinking. It suggests that structured information and order aren't just fleeting states destined for decay, but fundamental, enduring aspects of reality within the CV.
So it's not just about the amount of energy, but its quality, its structure that's also conserved.
That's the idea. It implies a deeper form of conservation.
Okay. Law 1, coherence is conserved. What's next?
2. Negentropic condensation. This law describes the process by which structured order, or negentropy, forms and accumulates from the coherence vacuum. It's the direct opposite of entropy increase, where order dissipates into chaos.
So this is the mechanism for creating order.
Exactly. This law posits that the CV actively generates order, allowing for the emergence and stability of complex systems. Think of it like crystallization, maybe, but on a cosmic scale, where intricate structures spontaneously form and grow by drawing from the CV.
Like building things up instead of breaking them down.
It provides a potential mechanism for how structures, from fundamental particles, maybe all the way up to stars or even galaxies, can arise and persist, continuously drawing order from the CV.
Interesting. Okay. Law 3.
3.3. Gradient-driven structuring. This law outlines the fundamental mechanism by which usable energy or structure emerges from the CV. It posits that energy extraction is possible through accessing and maintaining coherence gradients within the CV field.
Coherence gradients, like a difference in the level of coherence.
Exactly. Imagine a gradient as a difference in potential, like a waterfall, where water flows from high potential energy to low generating power. Here, it's about a flow from an area of high deep coherence to an area of lower, more localized coherence. And that structured flow is what can be harnessed for work.
So it's not violating energy conservation. It's tapping into a pre-existing flow, like building a mill on an infinitely powerful river.
That's a very good way to think about it. It's about accessing an existing potential difference in coherence.
Makes sense. And the last one, Law 4.
And finally, 4. Entropic sealing of QV. This law basically circles back and reinforces why the quantum vacuum, as we discussed earlier, is a dead end for free energy. It reaffirms the QV's nature as a residue where usable coherence is no longer accessible.
So it draws a clear boundary.
Yes. This law explicitly states that once coherence dissipates fully into the QV state, meaning it loses its structure and becomes statistically random, it becomes entropically sealed. Its structured potential for work is lost. It's a stark boundary, a point of no return for usable energy, clearly separating the fertile coherence vacuum from the chaotic quantum vacuum.
Wow. Okay, so these 4 laws together paint a very different picture.
Absolutely. They provide a completely new lens for understanding energy transformations. They focus on coherence and order rather than just thermal processes and disorder.
And they suggest that free energy, as this paper defines it, isn't some magical violation,
but rather the natural and, as the paper says, structurally inevitable result of aligning with a different, deeper set of fundamental principles, those governing the coherence vacuum.
It really does flip our understanding of what's possible, potentially moving us beyond the current limits of physics by proposing this deeper reality. 3. Extracting energy from coherence gradients. Okay, this is where the theory starts to feel, well, almost like science fiction, but grounded in this new framework. If the coherence vacuum holds this infinite structured potential, how could we possibly tap into it? How do we go from theory to, even a concept for application?
Right. The paper bravely delves into the actual mechanism it calls coherence gradient energy extraction, outlining how this might actually work in principle. 1, a mechanism of extraction, flow, not violation.
And the first point seems crucial. It's about flow, not violation.
Absolutely. The paper makes it explicitly clear, and it's a point worth repeating. Free energy is the flow of coherence, not violation of laws. This distinction is vital. It's not about creating energy from nothing, which would violate conservation laws as we know them.
We're not breaking the rules.
No. Instead, it's about accessing a pre-existing structured flow within the foundational field of reality. The key condition for extraction is the ability of a system, a device, to access and maintain a coherence gradient.
That waterfall analogy again. The energy is in the flow, and you build a sophisticated turbine to capture and convert that flow, not to create the river itself.
Exactly. You're aligning with an existing potential.
And the paper uses math, to describe this flow.
It does. It provides two fundamental equations which, look complex, but we can grasp their core meaning conceptually. The first is for coherence flux, written as mathcalja. Okay, flux, like
Yeah.
flow rate. So mathcalja is the flow. Mathiclab represents the coherence flux itself.
Yeah.
This is the measurable flow of usable structured energy from the coherence vacuum. It's the current we're trying to tap.
And the other parts tell us how it flows.
Exactly. Methanol can be thought of conceptually as a coherence conductivity tensor. It basically tells us how easily coherence flows through the vacuum in different directions, much like electrical conductivity tells us how easily electrons flow through a wire.
Okay, how easily it moves.
And mathgavclog is the coherence gradient. It represents the slope or steepness of the coherence field. Just as water flows faster down a steeper incline, usable coherence flows more readily down a steeper coherence gradient.
From higher coherence to lower coherence.
Right. And the negative sign just indicates that the flow is down the gradient, from higher potential to lower. So this equation isn't describing random statistical fluctuations like in the QV. It's describing a precise, modulated coherence alignment, a directed flow.
Got it. Flow depends on conductivity and the steepness of the coherence hill. What's the second equation?
The second equation describes tensor structuring evolution. This one looks even more intense, but conceptually, it's describing how the system extracts usable work from this flow.
Usable work, like electricity or motion?
Potentially, yes. Black color here is the coherence structuring tensor. Think of it as the organized output, the actual usable energy being produced in a structured form. The fractal part tells us it's about the rate of change of the structured output over a specific coherence timescale.
So how fast we're getting useful energy out?
Mm-hmm. And on the right side, the first term, alpha mathgalius, explains how the structured output is generated. Alpha is some kind of efficiency factor, and it's multiplied by the coherence flux and the coherence gradient.
So more flow and a steeper gradient means more output, adjusted by efficiency.
Exactly. It's telling us that the structured work is produced by the interaction of the coherent flow with the coherence gradient. But the second term, gamma mathcal T, is also really important.
What does that do?
It represents a dissipation factor. It indicates that this structured output might naturally decay or lose its coherence over time if it's not continuously maintained and stabilized. The gamma represents how quickly it dissipates.
So you need to keep the process going, actively manage it.
Precisely. It emphasizes the need for active management and continuous interaction with the CV to sustain the energy flow. You can't just tap it once and walk away. You have to maintain the gradient and the coherence.
So putting these together, the energy isn't just sitting there passively. It's a dynamic process.
Very much so. It's an ongoing process of aligning with and modulating the intrinsic structured flow of the coherence vacuum. This is a radically different paradigm from trying to extract energy from the random noise of the quantum vacuum.
It's about intelligent design interacting with a fundamental active flow.
Rather than trying to force work out of chaos or relying solely on converting mass to energy, like in nuclear reactions. 2, design criteria for coherence energy devices.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually. So if this is possible, if we could actually build a device to do this, what would it need? What are the design rules?
Right. How would we even begin to engineer something like this? The paper outlines 4 critical design criteria for such devices, moving us from the purely theoretical towards, well, conceptual engineering.
What's the first one?
First, there's resonance matching. Devices would need harmonically aligned cavities, and the paper specifically mentions things like fractal Casimir chambers.
Okay, resonance, like tuning a radio. And Casimir chambers are usually about the QV, right? The 2 plates.
They are, but here the idea is extended. It implies tuning the device very precisely to resonate with these specific amplitudes or frequencies of the coherence vacuum. Just as your radio receiver is tuned to a specific frequency to pick up a clear signal, a coherence energy device would need to be tuned to the inherent vibrational patterns of the CV.
And fractal chambers. Does that mean complex shapes?
It suggests a complex, self-similar geometry that can interact with the vacuum at multiple nested scales. This could potentially maximize the resonant coupling across different orders of magnitude, making it better at hearing or aligning with the complex structure of the CV.
Okay, tune the device like an antenna. What's criterion 2?
Geometry symmetry matching. The physical geometry and the symmetry of the device must reflect coherence tensor fields.
Reflect the fields. What does that mean practically?
It's a profound concept. It suggests that the internal structure of the device, its actual physical architecture, must inherently align with the geometric principles embedded within the CV itself. It's not just about making it look nice. It's about a shape that mathematically and geometrically mirrors the fundamental symmetries and the underlying order of this deeper reality.
Like building a key that fits perfectly into the CV's lock.
That's a great analogy. It needs to be structurally in tune with the source it's trying to tap, allowing for optimal interaction and energy flow.
So precise geometry is crucial. What's third?
Gradient stabilization. This is incredibly important. A crucial aspect is to maintain the system at the edge of coherence collapse, and critically, avoid decoherence by damping entropic edge effects.
Edge coherence collapse.
Mm.
Sounds delicate.
Extremely. Once you access this highly ordered coherence, you need active systems to prevent it from degrading back into the disordered quantum vacuum state. It's like trying to hold a very intricate, fragile structure together while a chaotic force, the surrounding entropic environment, is constantly trying to break it down.
Entropic edge effects, that's the normal world interference.
Essentially, yes. It's where the highly coherent energy interacts with the ordinary, messy, entropic environment, threatening to dissipate into useless heat or randomness. So the device would need active feedback and control systems to shield the process and prevent the extracted coherence from losing its usable, structured nature.
Keep the order from turning into chaos. Makes sense. And the fourth criterion.
Finally, partial reduction zones threshold management. This relates closely to stabilization. It refers to maintaining the system right at that critical edge of coherence collapse by carefully modulating something called a coherence transmissivity or reduction threshold, symbolized by tau.
A threshold. Like a control valve.
Sort of. Imagine a valve that allows a precise amount of water to flow through, but not so much that the pressure driving the flow drops entirely. It suggests a delicate balance. The device must allow coherence to flow through it to be extracted, but not allow the coherence within the device itself to fully collapse into the QV state.
So you let some energy out, but keep the gradient intact inside.
Exactly. This continuous modulation is essential for maintaining the necessary coherence gradient, which, remember from Law 3, is what actually drives the energy extraction.
Okay, these four criteria, resonance, geometry, stabilization, and threshold management, they paint a picture of incredibly sophisticated engineering, far beyond our current energy tech.
Absolutely. It requires a deep understanding of these new principles, assuming they're correct, and a level of precision engineering we're only just beginning to contemplate. It's more like tuning an instrument to harmonize with the universe than burning fuel. 4. The CV resonance reactor, a simulated model.
It's one thing to talk about principles and criteria, but it's still very abstract. Did the paper try to visualize what a device using these principles might look like, even just in a computer model?
Yes, it did. It offers a glimpse with its simulated device models, specifically focusing on something called the CV resonance reactor. This helps bring these abstract concepts into a more tangible, albeit still conceptual, form. 1. Core principles and components.
Okay, a CV resonance reactor. What's the core idea?
The paper envisions a reactor built specifically on what it terms coherence engineering principles. This isn't just about applying standard physics and material science. It's about designing structures that can actively interact with the fundamental order of the coherence vacuum, almost like sculpting space-time locally to resonate with this deeper field.
Sculpting space-time. Wow. So what would be the key components of such a reactor in this simulation?
At its heart, naturally, it would include a coherence field chamber. This is the central, highly controlled space where the primary interaction with the CV would happen, where the tuning we talked about takes place.
The main stage.
Right. And within this chamber, there would be nested, symmetric cavities. Think of them almost like a series of Russian dolls, each perfectly shaped and arranged according to those symmetry principles we discussed.
Why nested?
These cavities are specifically designed to reflect tensor eigenmodes, meaning they would align with and amplify the fundamental resonant patterns or vibrational modes of the coherence field at different scales. They act as incredibly sensitive antennae, tuned to the CV's structured energy. These aren't just empty spaces, they are intricately designed geometric structures.
Okay, chambers and cavities. What else?
The simulation includes flux gates. These aren't just simple on-off switches like in an electrical circuit. They're imagined as sophisticated mechanisms to allow for the modulated release of the extracted energy.
Modulated release. So controlled output.
Exactly. It implies a controlled, precise outflow, not a sudden, uncontrolled burst. This ensures the energy is delivered in a stable, usable form, perhaps matching demand.
And you mentioned stabilization being key.
Absolutely essential. So the model includes resonance stabilizers, specifically designed to prevent decoherence. Without these, the delicate, highly ordered coherence, once tapped, would likely degrade very quickly into the disordered quantum vacuum, shutting down the energy flow. They maintain the precise conditions needed for the system to continuously draw coherence. 2. Simulated operation and energy output.
So how would this simulated reactor actually operate? How does it pull energy from the CV?
The simulation shows that precise boundary conditions within the reactor would be established and dynamically maintained. These conditions, set by the geometry, materials, and active controls, would effectively shape coherence flow.
Guiding the energy.
Essentially, yes. Directing the negentropic energy to where it can be most effectively utilized and converted into usable work. These boundary conditions are critical. They're the parameters that define the interaction between the physical device's structure and the underlying CV field.
So the design creates an environment where these new laws of coherence can work effectively.
That's the explicit aim. It's about building a precise geometric and resonant structure that can interact with the CV to produce structured energy rather than just random heat or fluctuations. It's a blueprint for a completely new class of technology.
Moving beyond the brute force energy conversion we mostly rely on today, which is inherently lossy due to entropy.
Exactly. Less about burning things, more about aligning things.
And what about the output in the simulation? How is that described?
The paper describes the output with the equation Fepinabla and 6 out and cast out. This represents the coherence-induced work.
Okay, let's break that down again. Feed text out is the usable power output.
Right. Kappa is an efficiency factor, telling us how well the device converts the tapped coherence into actual work.
And the other part? Nabla ba. That looks like the divergence of the coherence flux.
It is. Conceptually, divergence measures how much of the coherence flow is gushing out or being sourced from a specific point or region within the field that the device interacts with. So the equation describes the rate at which structured, usable energy emerges from this controlled interaction.
And what form does this energy take? Is it just heat?
That's a key point, no. The paper states this isn't just generic energy, it's structured work, meaning it could manifest directly in various usable forms: electrical, photonic, pressure, etc.
Directly into electricity or light or force?
Potentially. This is a significant departure from traditional thermal energy generation, where a large chunk of energy is always lost as unusable heat. That's the second law tax, essentially. Here, the output is proposed to be directly usable and precise.
Hinting at a highly efficient system with minimal waste, because it's fundamentally drawing from a negentropic source.
That's the implication. It could mean power generation without massive heat sinks, or maybe even propulsion systems that don't produce hot exhaust. It opens up possibilities that sound like science fiction but follow logically from the paper's premises, via experimental predictions and broader implications.
Okay, this is all profoundly theoretical, right? Based on simulations, mathematical models. But if this framework is correct, if the coherence vacuum is real and accessible, there should be ways to test it. Observable phenomena that would look different from what current physics predicts.
Absolutely. And the paper bravely steps into this territory. It doesn't just stay theoretical. It outlines specific experimental predictions. This provides a potential pathway for empirical validation, which is, ultimately what science demands. 1. Testable predictions and observables.
So how would we confirm this in a lab? What would we look for?
The paper provides specific, measurable effects that would be distinct from anything currently explained by mainstream physics. These are phenomena that, if observed, would be, frankly, revolutionary.
Like what? Give us the headline predictions.
Okay, first, and perhaps the most striking, anomalous thrust without expulsion.
Thrust without throwing anything out the back.
Yeah.
Like the hypothetical EM drive.
Exactly like that concept. Propulsion occurring without needing to expel any reaction mass. In conventional physics, Newton's third law rules for every action. There's an equal and opposite reaction. If you want to move forward, you push something backward.
Yep. Rockets push out gas, planes push air.
An EM drive type effect, if definitively confirmed, would challenge a very fundamental principle of propulsion. But within the CV framework, it's presented as a potentially natural consequence of tapping into a directional coherence flow that provides momentum directly from the vacuum without needing direct mass expulsion.
Like being pushed by an invisible current in the CV. Wow. Okay, what else?
Next, the paper predicts non-thermal energy output. Unlike traditional energy generation burning fossil fuels, nuclear fission, even fusion, the output would not be tied to Joule heating.
Meaning it wouldn't get hot in the same way.
Essentially, yes. Most of our current energy sources generate heat either as the primary output or as a significant, often unavoidable byproduct. A non-thermal output would indicate a fundamentally different energy conversion process, one that doesn't rely on the chaotic motion of particles and the associated entropy generation.
Imagine a device producing electricity, or light, or mechanical force without getting significantly hot or without needing massive cooling systems.
That would be a clear signature of CV interaction, very different from Z-Casimir effects, which often manifest as subtle forces or potentially heat.
Okay, that leads to the next one, differentiating from ZPE.
Yes, the paper predicts that the fluctuation signature differs. Any fluctuations observed within such a device should have a distinct character compared to those seen in conventional Casimir ZPE devices. While both involve the vacuum, the Casimir effect is typically attributed to the random statistical fluctuations of the quantum vacuum. This paper predicts a structured harmonic fluctuation signature originating from the coherence vacuum. This difference in the noise signature would allow us to differentiate energy extracted from the coherent, structured CV from the random statistical fluctuations of the QV.
A way to tell the fire apart from the ash in a measurement.
Precisely. It's a key potential differentiator.
What else?
Furthermore, the energy output itself should exhibit harmonic spectral regularity. This suggests a highly ordered resonant nature, unlike the noisy, broadband, chaotic output you might expect from random zero-point energy fluctuations.
Like a pure musical note versus static.
A very good analogy. Imagine a finely tuned instrument producing clear, distinct notes and harmonies rather than white noise. This harmonic signature would be a clear indicator of a structured, coherent energy source, providing energy in precise, predictable packets or frequencies.
Okay, and there were a couple more related to entropy.
Yeah. Yes. Two critical predictions that directly challenge the second law as applied to conventional closed or isolated systems. Entropy reduction in bounded zones. Locally, within the device's operational zone, there might be a measurable decrease in entropy.
Order increasing locally.
Yes. This would directly demonstrate the claimed negentropic aspect of the CV order emerging, where disorder was previously expected based on standard thermodynamics in that zone. Now, this wouldn't violate the overall entropy increase of the universe, potentially, but it would show a local extraction of negentropy, of order, from the CV.
And the output itself.
The paper also predicts potentially pulsed harmonic output spectra. The energy might be emitted not continuously, but in distinct, regular pulses with that characteristic harmonic signature, further emphasizing its ordered, non-thermal, non-random nature.
Okay, these are all incredibly specific and frankly challenging predictions, if any of these were observed and verified.
It would fundamentally rewrite our physics textbooks and open up entirely new fields of scientific and engineering study. It would be paradigm shifting. 2, cosmological implications and stellar analogs.
But the paper doesn't just stop at lab experiments or devices. It goes bigger, much bigger. It suggests that the entire universe might operate on these principles.
It does. It stretches the imagination further, suggesting that the cosmos itself might be powered by these coherence dynamics. It offers a new, potentially breathtaking lens through which to view cosmic phenomena that have, in some cases, puzzled astronomers for decades.
How so? What's the connection?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this framework fundamentally re-envisions the energy source of the cosmos. Instead of viewing the universe primarily as a product of entropic processes like nuclear fusion in stars that slowly consume fuel and wind down, it suggests the universe itself could be a massive ongoing demonstration of coherence-driven phenomena.
Where energy is not stuff, but flow.
Exactly, a continuous dynamic interaction with a universal negentropic source. This changes the fundamental story of the universe from one of solely winding down to one of ongoing creation and structuring.
Okay, that's a huge claim. Does it offer specific examples?
It posits some truly mind-bending ideas. For instance, that stars are natural CV extractors, not merely fusion engines.
Stars tap the CV, not just fusion.
That's the radical proposal. Instead of only fusing hydrogen into helium to create energy, a process with a finite fuel supply that increases entropy stars could also be drawing energy directly from the coherence vacuum, perhaps using their immense gravity and plasma dynamics to create the necessary coherence gradients.
What would that explain?
Well, it could potentially help explain how stars sustain their immense energy output for billions of years, maybe address anomalies in their brightness, temperature, or lifespan compared to purely fusion-based models. It might even offer new insights into stellar formation and evolution.
Wow. Okay, what about other cosmic objects?
Building on that, the paper suggests that quasars, those incredibly energetic cores of distant galaxies, could be coherence burst nodes?
Coherence bursts.
Yes, representing massive concentrated releases of coherence vacuum energy. Quasars are some of the most luminous and powerful objects we observe, and their energy output is difficult to explain solely by matter falling into supermassive black holes.
So maybe they're tapping the CV on a galactic scale.
The paper suggests their extraordinary luminosity and power could be a visible manifestation of vast coherence gradients collapsing or being actively tapped, releasing energy in ways that dwarf conventional explanations.
And even stellar death gets a new look. Supernovae.
Yes. Even supernovae, the spectacular, violent death of massive stars, might represent collapse beyond threshold of coherence. Instead of just being the catastrophic end of fusion when a star runs out of fuel and its core collapses gravitationally, a supernova could also involve a system reaching a critical point where its ability to maintain a stable coherence gradient fails.
So the coherence system breaks down.
Leading to an explosive release as the structured energy maintained by the star rapidly dissipates into the disordered quantum vacuum, a monumental event of coherence turning into chaos.
That's a completely different way to think about it.
And the boldest claim, perhaps, wraps it all together. The universe may be powered by CV coherence dynamics, not thermal explosions.
Challenging the Big Bang model, or complementing it.
It certainly challenges the prevailing cosmological narrative of a universe born solely from a hot entropic Big Bang and slowly winding down towards heat death. Instead, it suggests an ongoing dynamic interaction with a negentropic source, constantly creating and sustaining order on a cosmic scale.
A universe that's constantly being refreshed by coherence.
That's the implication. It shifts the primary energy driver from localized entropic processes to a universal, coherent flow. This framework, the paper suggests, could potentially offer new avenues for understanding cosmic mysteries like dark energy or the formation of large-scale structures by positing a continuous, active, generative process underlying everything. 3. Philosophical implications. Energy as coherence motion.
Okay, this shift in scientific thinking, if it holds any water, inevitably ripples into how we view reality itself, doesn't it? If the universe isn't just winding down but is constantly driven by an underlying field of order, that changes things fundamentally.
It absolutely does, and the paper, quite profoundly, doesn't shy away from touching on these philosophical implications.
What's the core philosophical takeaway then?
I think it's captured beautifully in a concise yet revolutionary statement near the end. Energy is not stuff, it is flow.
Energy isn't a thing, it's a process.
Exactly. It means energy is not merely a quantity or a substance to be moved around or conserved like little billiard balls. It's fundamentally a dynamic, active process. The paper describes it as motion in coherence. It's less about a quantifiable particle and more about the intrinsic organization, the directed movement, and the active structuring within the fundamental fabric of reality.
So energy is redefined as an ontological flow, a fundamental action.
Rather than just a passive quantity or something carried by particles.
And building on that, it makes another huge statement about free energy itself.
Yes. Free energy is not a violation, it is alignment. This statement, I think, really reframes the entire debate. It takes free energy out of the realm of pseudoscience and impossibility.
It's not about breaking the rules.
No. It's not about finding a loophole or creating something from nothing or defying conservation. Instead, it's presented as a natural consequence of resonating with, of aligning with, the fundamental generative structure of reality itself, the coherence vacuum.
Like designing systems that are in harmony with the CV's principles.
Precisely. Allowing them to tap into its inherent structured flow, just as a sailboat aligns with the flow of the wind, or a water wheel aligns with the flow of a river.
Okay, so the conclusion is, if this CV exists,
then, the paper argues, once the coherence vacuum is accepted as the ontological ground, the foundational reality from which everything else emerges, then free energy becomes not magical, but mechanical, a design principle of coherent reality.
it makes it sound almost normal within that framework.
It suggests that our current perception of impossibility surrounding free energy is merely an illusion created by an incomplete understanding of the vacuum, a blind spot in our current scientific map of reality.
And this paper aims to provide a new map.
By providing a coherent framework, a new potential map, this paper aims to remove that illusion, opening up entirely new avenues for scientific inquiry and technological development. It's a fundamental call to reconsider the very nature of existence and the perhaps incredible possibilities that lie within it if we just look from a different perspective. Conclusion.
So wow, What does this all mean for us as we wrap up this deep dive into Philip Lilien's paper, Free Energy from the Coherence Vacuum, Beyond the Thermodynamic Limit? This paper certainly presents a compelling, definitely paradigm-shifting argument that forces us to look beyond our established scientific comfort zones.
The paper's core message is clear, and it's audacious. The conventional prohibition of free energy is not presented as an absolute law of nature, immutable and undeniable. Instead, it's framed as a limitation.
A limitation of our current model.
Yes, a limitation of an entropic model. A model that, according to Lilien, mistakenly takes the quantum vacuum as the ultimate and most fundamental reality. A model that describes the aftermath, the residue, rather than the source itself.
Right. The paper asserts that the quantum vacuum, with all its statistical noise and decohered state, is merely the ash of coherence, not the fire. It's the leftover state of something far more active, far more generative, and infinitely more ordered beneath it all.
And conversely, the coherence vacuum is introduced as the potential infinite ontological source field, a field which, if it exists as described, provides structured, extractable flow. The paper offers a comprehensive, theoretical, mathematical, and even conceptual design foundation needed to fundamentally reconsider the very nature of energy itself.
And how we might interact with it to harness its inherent ordered potential.
Exactly.
Ultimately, then, the paper concludes that free energy is not only possible, it is a consequence of aligning with the generative structure of reality. It's a bold claim, absolutely, one that invites us to look deeper into the fabric of the cosmos and our place within its dynamic, potentially inexhaustible energy flows.
Outro. What stands out to you most after this deep dive into the coherence vacuum? Does it, challenge your assumptions about what's possible in physics and energy? For me, consider this. If energy is truly motion in coherence, as the paper puts it, and if our universe, from stars down to maybe even the intricate organization of life itself, is driven by these subtle negentropic dynamics, what fundamental principles might we be overlooking in other fields of science?
Like biology or cosmology.
Potentially. If aligning with fundamental coherence allows for seemingly free energy, what else might it enable? Could it offer new insights into organization, complexity, growth, creation, maybe even shed light on phenomena we currently struggle to explain, like consciousness or the origin of life's intricate order? It suggests a universe far more interconnected, alive, and generative than our current, often more mechanical models imply.
It certainly leaves us with a lot to ponder, doesn't it? About the hidden, ordered structures of reality and the incredible possibilities that might just lie beyond our current scientific models waiting to be understood. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.